Welcome to Chatting with Alex and Sophia. I'm your host, Alex, and Sophia has joined us. I want you to mentally transport yourself back to the very first time you navigated a massive, bustling international airport. Just picture the sheer scale of the place for a second.
Ew, yeah, it's completely overwhelming.
Right. You walk through those automatic sliding glass doors, and suddenly you're just hit with this absolute sensory overload. There are, thousands of people rushing in every conceivable direction. The ceilings are like 50 feet high, made of glass and steel.
And the noise, the constant noise.
Exactly. There's that continuous hum of rolling suitcase wheels on the hard tile, and it overlaps with that booming, slightly echoing voice on the public address system announcing a final boarding call. And everywhere you look, there are glowing screens filled with rapidly changing numbers and letters, endless queues of stressed-looking travelers, and an absolute maze of arrows. Arrows pointing to concourses, gates, lounges, transit trains.
It's a lot to process, even for seasoned travelers.
It is an incredibly overwhelming experience, even if you are a native speaker of the local language. I mean, even if you can read every single sign perfectly. The modern airport is designed in a way that inherently induces this continuous hum of anxiety.
Well, it is an environment unlike almost any other in our daily lives. You are stepping into a highly securitized, highly regulated transit hub where the rules are strictly enforced and the cost of making a mistake is incredibly high. We tend to just accept that going to the airport involves a certain amount of psychological friction.
We just internalize the stress.
Exactly. We just accept it as part of the journey. But when you look at it through the eyes of someone who doesn't even speak the language, you realize just how complex that environment truly is. The architecture alone is intimidating, but when you add a linguistic barrier to the physical and bureaucratic barriers, it becomes a true test of endurance.
And that exact perspective is our mission for today's deep dive. We have a specific, really fascinating educational artifact to unpack. It's an English as a second language script, and it's designed for a channel called Talk with Alex and Sophia.
Which is quite a funny coincidence given our intro today.
I know, right? Gave me a good laugh when we were prepping. But yeah, the source text is titled The Airport Survival Guide, and it is engineered specifically for A1 to A2 level English learners. So we are talking about absolute beginners here.
People who are just starting to grasp the basics of the language.
Right. The stated topic is real-life airport situations. But we're going to look at this script as an exercise in breaking down complex, high-stress environments into manageable, bite-sized concepts. By looking at what this script chooses to teach, it reveals what we collectively view as the absolute bare minimum survival requirements for modern air travel.
Creating an A1 to A2 level script requires really ruthless prioritization. The learner is using a massive amount of brain power just to decode the sounds and basic meanings of the words. If you overload them with nuance or exceptions, you paralyze them.
You just shut them down.
Exactly. The writers of Talk with Alex and Sophia had to look at the reality of an airport and distill it down to its absolute essence. Analyzing their choices gives us incredible insight into the architecture of travel anxiety itself. Because this script isn't just teaching vocabulary, it's teaching a psychological survival strategy.
Let's start right at the beginning of the script then. It opens with a standard welcome, introducing the characters, Alex and Sophia. But right away, Sophia says something highly specific. She says, and I quote, "Alex, I'm a bit nervous. I'm going to travel soon, and airports are so big." She doesn't say she's nervous about her grammar or her vocabulary. She explicitly states she is nervous because airports are big.
By addressing the universal anxiety of travel immediately, the script builds empathy. In language learning, especially for adults, the affective filter is a massive factor.
The affective filter. What does that mean exactly for the listener?
So, when a student is anxious or stressed, this emotional roadblock goes up. That's the affective filter, and it literally blocks the brain from absorbing new linguistic input. By having the character Sophia openly admit that she finds airports intimidating because of their sheer size, that filter is instantly lowered.
Because the learner is thinking, oh good, it's not just me.
Exactly. The listener realizes they aren't the only one who finds this terrifying. It validates the fear, which paradoxically makes the fear much easier to manage.
It acknowledges the elephant in the room. But I do wonder, does it risk reinforcing that anxiety? If the host of the lesson is nervous, the learner might think, well, if she's scared, I should be absolutely terrified.
That is a valid concern in instructional design, but the character Alex's response mitigates that risk. He frames the English language not as a set of rules you have to memorize, but as a functional tool. The language is positioned as the antidote to the anxiety.
So, they move to the macro level first. the absolute largest physical element. Alex tells Sophia that the first thing she needs to find is the terminal. Sophia asks what that means, and Alex says, a terminal is a large building at the airport. That's the entire definition. A large building at the airport.
It is very direct.
But I have to wonder if that is too reductive. A terminal is vastly more complex than just a large building. It has specific functions, security zones, commercial areas. Does calling it a large building leave the learner underprepared for what's actually waiting for them inside?
It is extremely reductive, but intentionally so. A beginner English learner doesn't need to understand the internal zoning of a transit hub at this stage. They just need to mentally map the word terminal to the giant physical structure they're trying to locate from the highway.
That makes sense. Keep it entirely exterior for now.
Right. By defining it simply as a large building, it grounds the abstract concept in physical reality. Introducing the complexity of what happens inside the terminal before they've even found the front door would overload that cognitive budget we discussed earlier.
Fair point. And the script immediately makes it concrete. The character Alex adds, big airports have many terminals, like Terminal 1, 2, or 3. So they move from the abstract large building to a numbered, specific physical location. And this leads to the very first survival phrase taught in the script, which is, excuse me, where is Terminal 2?
That phrase is crucial because it anticipates the very first failure state of the airport experience. Being lost before you even begin. Knowing the word terminal is completely useless if you're standing in the wrong one.
It's really interesting that instead of trying to teach the learner how to read a complex airport map, the text teaches them how to leverage the people around them. It fundamentally acknowledges that getting lost is basically step one of the airport experience.
Wayfinding in a massive transit hub is inherently complex. Despite all the expensive signage and spatial design, the most efficient way to solve a navigation problem is almost always to ask another human being. The script prioritizes this social solution.
And it starts with politeness.
Exactly. It teaches the phrase, excuse me, which is essential for polite interruption in English, followed by the direct question. The primary goal is physical relocation, and asking for help is the fastest route to get there.
Okay, let's say you found the right building. You are in Terminal 2. The script then introduces the route. It breaks down flights into two categories. Alex explains, international means flights to other countries, and domestic means flights inside the same country. And then he provides another highly practical phrase. Where is the international departures area?
Notice the early introduction of the word departures there. Airports are strictly physically divided into people leaving and people arriving. Mixing up those two areas is a major disruption to your trip.
You end up on the wrong floor entirely.
Precisely. By pairing international with departures, the script creates a composite concept. It's teaching the specific collocations the learner will see on the overhead signs. When you walk into a terminal, the biggest signs are usually domestic departures and international departures. The script programs the learner's brain to scan the visual environment for those exact text strings.
I do wonder why there's no mention of arrivals at this stage of the lesson. It entirely focuses on the outbound journey.
Because the outbound journey, the departure is where the time pressure and strict compliance are highest. Arriving is relatively passive. You just follow the herd out of the building.
Yeah.
Departing requires active navigation against a ticking clock. The script allocates its limited educational time to the highest stakes scenario.
That makes perfect sense. So, Sophia has successfully navigated the macro architecture. She found the terminal, she found the international departures area. Now the script moves to the check-in desk. Alex says, now you are at the airline desk. We have moved from navigating space to an interpersonal interaction. And the first phrase from the staff, according to the script, is, may I see your passport, please?
This is a significant shift in the psychological dynamic of the journey. Up until this point, the traveler has been an independent agent moving through space. The moment you step up to the check-in desk, you are interacting with a gatekeeper.
Right, someone who can actually say no and stop your trip.
Yes. This employee represents the authority of the airline and, by extension, international border control. The focus shifts entirely from the physical building to your formal legal identity. May I see your passport, please, is not a casual request. It's a mandatory checkpoint.
If you don't understand that sentence, the journey just stops. But the phrasing is interesting to me. May I see your passport, please? It's very polite. It masks the mandatory nature of the demand. Does that politeness confuse a beginner? Might they think it's optional because it's framed as a polite question?
That's a very perceptive question. English relies heavily on polite masking for commands in customer service and bureaucratic settings. The script prepares the learner for this specific cultural cadence. By teaching the polite form, it prevents the learner from being startled by it in the real world.
Because if they only studied direct commands.
Right, if they only learned, "Give me your passport," the polite phrasing from the agent might confuse them. They might not realize an official instruction is being given.
So the character Sophia replies, "I have my passport ready." It's a clear statement of compliance. Then she immediately pivots to the luggage. She says, "And then I need to talk about my bags. I have one big suitcase." The script handles luggage in a very specific, structural way. Alex breaks the traveler's belongings into a binary based entirely on their physical destination on the plane. He says, "That is your check bag. You give that to the airline. The bag you take on the plane is your carry-on bag."
Airline baggage rules are labyrinthine. You have weight limits, dimensions, prohibited items, varying fee structures. But the A1 to A2 learner cannot navigate all of that in their second language. The script brilliantly prioritizes physical action over bureaucratic policy.
You give that to the airline.
That is the functional definition of a check bag. It focuses purely on the action of relinquishing control.
It completely bypasses all the complicated jargon you find on an airline's website. The bag you take on the plane is your carry-on bag. It's purely about what you keep with you versus what you give away. It's so clean.
Giving up your checked bag requires a certain level of trust. You are handing your personal belongings to a massive automated system, hoping it arrives at your destination. By explicitly stating you give that to the airline, the script prepares the learner for that physical separation. It sets expectations for the physical realities of the journey, clarifying the transaction. The carry-on bag is your lifeline. Those are the items you retain control over.
Okay, the bags are sorted, the passport is checked. Now the script moves to choosing a seat. Usually, in a beginner text, you might just learn the word seat and move on. But the writers introduce personal preference here. Sophia tells Alex, "I love looking at the clouds. How do I ask for a seat by the window?" Alex teaches her the phrase, "Can I have a window seat, please?"
Attaching a narrative motivation, Sophia loving the clouds, is a really pragmatic pedagogical choice. It creates a mental hook for the student. The learner visualizes the clouds, aligning the vocabulary word window seat with a specific relatable desire.
And then Alex contrasts it by saying, "But if you like to walk around, ask for an aisle seat." He defines the seat by the action it affords the passenger. A window seat is for looking at clouds. An aisle seat is for walking around. It's a purely functional definition. But then the script addresses the spelling of the word aisle, which is a nightmare. Alex gives an explicit warning. Remember, the S in aisle is silent. It sounds like aisle.
The disconnect between the written letters and the pronunciation of the word aisle is massive. It's a huge phonetic roadblock.
It really is. A-I-S-L-E.
If a beginner relying on standard phonetic rules tries to pronounce A-I-S-L-E, they will almost certainly get it wrong, which could cause immediate confusion at the check-in desk.
It's one of those terrible quirks of English that makes the language so difficult for beginners. Navigating the airport is stressful enough without having to decipher silent consonants. The script practically breaks the fourth wall here to explicitly point out the silent S. It seems vital.
It absolutely is. It prevents a potentially frustrating interaction where the learner mispronounces the word and the agent doesn't understand them. It removes a barrier that could undermine the learner's confidence right at the exact moment they are trying to advocate for their own comfort.
Sophia repeats it. Aisle seat? Got it. I prefer the window seat. She makes her choice. Then the script moves to the next phase, the gauntlet. Alex says, "Next is security." Just the word itself carries weight. It's the ultimate checkpoint of the airport. And the script focuses on one highly specific command. Alex tells Sophia the staff might say, "Please put your laptop in a separate bin." Out of everything that happens at security, taking off shoes, belts, liquids, why focus purely on the laptop in the bin?
Because it is the most common point of friction that requires a specific act of compliance from the traveler. Security is a highly choreographed ritual, the rules are rigid, and the lines move very quickly. The instruction to isolate a large electronic device like a laptop is universally applied in almost every major airport globally, and it requires a specific physical action.
And if you don't do it right, everyone gets mad.
Exactly. If you hesitate, you hold up the line, increasing stress for everyone around you.
And it introduces the word bin. The script clarifies this immediately, though. Alex says a bin is a plastic box. I notice this simplification again. Is there a danger in defining it so narrowly? Like, if they go to a country where a bin means a trash can, could this cause panic? Imagine throwing your laptop in the trash.
That is exactly why the script clarifies it as a plastic box. By defining the bin purely by its material and shape within this specific context, it strips away alternative cultural meaning.
Context is everything.
Yes. In the specific theater of airport security, your electronics must be placed in a standardized plastic box. The language here is purely instructional. The goal is to get the learner through the process without triggering alarms, delays, or a pat-down.
So you survive security. You put your shoes back on, you repack your laptop, and you transition into the waiting game phase. The script moves to the gate. Sophia says, after security, I need to find my gate. That is where I wait for the plane. Alex replies, yes. Check the big screens. We shift from interpersonal communication back to digital literacy. The traveler has to read the monitors.
Airports rely heavily on visual information systems. Audio announcements are often impossible to hear over the crowd, or they might be heavily accented. You must be able to read the flight information display systems. Alex breaks down the data on those complex screens into a simple binary for the learner.
He focuses on just the two most crucial status words.
Right. He says, if you see the word delayed, it means the plane is late. If it says boarding, it is time to get on the plane.
The binary of airport waiting. When you are staring at that screen, you just want to know if you are sitting there at the gate for another 2 hours or getting on the plane right now. Delayed is the bad news. Boarding is the green light. But what if you are lost? Sophia asked the panic question, what if I can't find my gate?
The script returns to the human element to solve the problem. Alex provides the emergency phrase. Excuse me, can you help me find gate 34? And he adds a very important reassurance. He says, people are very helpful.
This is a nice touch.
It is. When you are anxious in a foreign environment, the default assumption might be that everyone is too busy or too stressed to help you. By stating that people are helpful, the script actively encourages the learner to seek assistance. It reinforces the idea that it is perfectly acceptable to interrupt someone to ask for directions.
It relies on the social contract of public spaces. People generally will point a lost traveler in the right direction if they are asked politely. So you find the gate, you board the plane, and the plane lands. We reach the final stage detail in the text. The baggage claim. Alex tells Sophia, look for the baggage claim. You find your bags on a moving belt called a carousel.
Carousel is an advanced, highly specific noun. The script first uses a functional definition, calling it a moving belt, but that's a pretty dry mechanical description. Sophia replies with a brilliant analogy. She says, carousel, like a merry-go-round for bags. That's easy to remember.
It is an interesting analogy. I mean, a baggage carousel is basically a loud industrial machine surrounded by tired people aggressively waiting for their luggage. Linking it to a merry-go-round completely changes the tone of that environment. Does making it sound like a children's ride actually help a stressed adult language learner?
It uses cognitive anchoring. It takes a potentially confusing piece of specialized airport jargon and links it to a universally familiar, positive concept. When you think of a merry-go-round, you think of simple circular motion.
It instantly paints a picture in your head.
Exactly. By mapping that image onto the reality of baggage claim, it makes the new vocabulary instantly memorable. The learner doesn't have to translate the word in their head anymore. They just visualize bags moving in a circle. It's a highly pragmatic way to use familiar concepts to illuminate unfamiliar terminology.
It definitely makes the vocabulary stick. So the journey is complete. The bags are claimed from the merry-go-round. The script wraps up with Alex doing a quick review. He says, we covered a lot today. Terminal, aisle seat, delayed, and carousel. Just 4 words representing the building, the plane, the time, and the luggage.
Sophia's final reaction really summarizes the overarching message of the lesson. She says, I feel much better now. Learning English makes traveling so much easier. The script successfully transforms an unpredictable, chaotic space into a structured process.
It gives them a roadmap.
By giving the learner the names for the specific things that cause friction, the terminal, the security bin, the gate, it demystifies them. Language becomes a tangible tool for navigating the physical environment.
The script ends with a call to action for their audience. The character Alex assigns homework. He asks the listeners of their show to leave a comment answering a specific question. And we're going to leave you with that exact same question from the end of the Talk with Alex and Sophia text.
It's a choice that reflects how you prefer to experience the physical restrictions of air travel.
The question is this: do you prefer a window seat or an aisle seat, and why? Do you prioritize the view of the clouds and having a wall to lean on, or do you prioritize the ability to get up and walk around without asking permission? Think about what your choice says about how you handle that confined environment at 30,000 feet. Keep exploring the details in your own travels.